Hello, everybody. It's March the 22nd, 2024. It's episode number 15 coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, right in the middle of the heartland. You got me and Ronnie, and we're having some technical difficulties. Go figure. Sorry, we're a little bit late. And hello to everybody out there. We appreciate you guys tuning in. This is gonna be really interesting as to what happens here. Ronnie and I, we're starting now. I'm sorry, we're a couple of minutes late. I'm going to say hello to Rachel Ray. Thank you for being here. For Brittany J. from Muskegon. I'm sorry, not Muskegee. Muskegon, Michigan. And love Alberta. Kate's up in Alberta. I'm a huge Alberta, Canada fan. And Sparks, Nevada. That's where the other portion of the whites, the only other whites that I have in my family, are located in Sparks, in that area. So welcome, Ronnie. How you doing?
Good. All right. Hey, earlier in the chat stuff, we got Boston, we got Rochester, we got
love Boston.
I think that's all the other ones I see. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing? How's it been at work? I haven't seen a whole lot of murders going on, at least new ones. I know you guys were busy on. I think it was one of Lacey's.
I helped Lacey a little bit tonight. We were actually on the search for a gun. I think we're going to get, I'm actually seeing her down there in the bottom corner. I think we're going to be lucky here. We thought we were going to have to do one of these episodes where Ronnie and I see her. Yes. All right. We're going to bring you on here shortly. So I don't know what the heck you did, but that's great. We had a moment there where Ronnie and I were kind of sweating it, thinking we're just going to have to talk about whatever. But Stephanie is back, and you really want to see her here. So what have I been doing for the last week? Stephanie, what we do here in this portion of the show is we actually talk. He and I are going to talk back and forth for about, probably a couple of more minutes, and then we'll bring you on. I'll read your bio, and then we'll bring you on. But as far as work goes, yeah, man, I've been it's record numbers, Ronnie, how much I've worked at work. I've worked every night this week till late, and tonight, right before this show, of course, I ran over a nail up in deep North Tulsa, and I was watching the pressure go down. So the pressure monitor in my police car works out just great, and so I had to have a tow truck come and help me with that. And but I made it on time, and I'm happy to be here. We're gonna have Stephanie Kiesow here tonight. She's gonna be a lot of fun, and she's a friend of mine. And I think that a lot of people are going to get to know who she is, and I think that they're going to be really, really fascinated with her. What else is going on at work? Anything?
No, it was quiet week for me. I made a couple little projects, nothing really worth talking about. But I cut down some trees in my yard today, so I was busy with that. And your dog's out of control.
Sorry about the dog. See, the dog needs to go to the bedroom in timeout. All right. That's what happens. All right. So as far as any other developments,
read the bio. Let's get her on here.
All right. Let's do that. Sorry about that, folks. Now I got to tell you though, I got to mention this real quick. So, I've had two cases that are fascinating, and since we're going to be talking about her book called Workicide, I've been kind of working myself crazy. But I did get a development. I can't get into the details right now, but I'm incredibly excited because I got a massive break on a cold case, and so I'm going to be putting that together. I've actually been working on it for the last part of the week, and I'm incredibly excited because the people that are involved in it have absolutely no idea that I'm on to them, and it's going to be really, really, it's going to be a good thing. I promise you.
Epic? Is it going to be epic?
It's going to be epic as far as I'm concerned. All right, so let's get with this. We'll get rolling here. Once again, I wanted to apologize to everybody that's tuning in that, sometimes that's just the way it works, especially when we're filming live. As far as the drawing, let me mention this real quick. I am going to draw it tonight. I will tell you this. I think that the top number, it's going to be below 100. I have to tell you guys this when I do this, and I'm going to spin this wheel, and I'm going to show you the wheel getting spun so you know that there's not some tomfoolery going around. But the first, I've tried to describe this multiple times on this thing, and what I'm talking about is I'm talking about winning a light bulb that's valued at a lot of money, and this light bulb, the 911 locator, we're going to give away 2 of these tonight thanks to them. And we'll spin the wheel. Now, if you picked a number that somebody else already had, it's going to go to the first person with that number. There's nothing else I can do about it. I've tried to explain that multiple times. So that's just the only fair way to do it. I can't give away 6 bulbs to number 71. 71 is a very popular number that at least 4 or 5 people have chosen. It's going to go. If you have number 71, let me tell you something. You better freaking change it really quick. And you better pick a number that's not chosen up above that. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. All right. That's a hint. All right. So anyway, let's read her bio and get with this. Now, Stephanie is a former cop, the wife of a cop, and the daughter of 2 cops. From 2006 through 2022, Stephanie worked for 3 police agencies on the Central California coastline. The last several years as a sworn police officer, and in 2022, Stephanie left her job as a police officer and now focuses her time on researching and mitigating workplace contributing factors to suicide within first responder agencies, as well as increase organizational and occupational wellness through anecdotal and science-backed methods, partially through her PhD program in organizational psychology. So, Ronnie, I said this off air. She's probably smarter than both of us combined, but but she'll bring it down to our level, I'm sure. In addition to her professional roles with first responder wellness and counseling, or the Counseling Team International, Stephanie teaches for the Peace Officers Standards and Training, which is also known as POST, and Standard and Training for Corrections, also known as STC, with her certified therapy dog. Is a contributing writer and speaker for several organizations and is a published best-selling author of her book titled Workicide. And Stephanie has also been featured on Law Enforcement Today, the Police Tribune, and Blue Lives Matter. Amazon link for the book. She's got that listed. We'll put that on there. And when not working, teaching, or writing, Stephanie spends her time with her husband, sons, and her beloved pets, which are 3 dogs, 2 cats, 12 chickens, and 200 gallons of fish. I love it. So let's bring on Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie, to one of the most popular podcasts in the world, at least in the United States. But welcome.
Hi, guys. Super excited to be here. I'm so glad that everything's working on the IT side. So
me too. It's a lot more interesting to hear from somebody else other than us. So you are the author of this book, which I have to say, because I'm going to have my name's on the front cover too, because I wrote the foreword for you, which was really, really an honor to do that. And I'm excited about that. It's the first time that I've ever had that opportunity to do that. And it was really something special for me. Tell us about yourself as when you were a police officer. Where did you work, if you can mention that? And then how in the world did you come about getting to a point where you're going to write a book?
Yeah, that's quite a loaded question. I will start off by saying that I worked in Santa Barbara County on the central coast of California. I started off actually as a dispatcher, and then realized pretty quickly that I wanted to do more outside of the headset and just sitting behind a computer, which kudos to the dispatchers if any are listening, because that job is really, really hard. But I wanted to do more. And so I became a police officer, but my sort of trajectory for why I even wanted to write the book really started in 2011, which we can talk a little bit more about. But kind of nutshell version, I was dating a guy. I was a dispatcher at this time still. My boyfriend was a police officer. And because of a lot of contributing factors, his end result was that he died by suicide on duty just outside of his patrol car on one graveyard shift. And so that event was really the first time I had been exposed to suicide with someone that I knew, that I cared about. And with everything that contributed to his end result, I realized that there were a lot of things I didn't know about. I just felt like, to be quite honest, I felt like I failed him in a way, because there were some red flags. There were things that I just didn't pick up on at the time. And so that really changed educationally for me to study, research, kind of have this, what I call a obsessive curiosity um, about everything suicide related. And so I started researching suicide, mental health related stuff, kind of unofficially. I got my bachelor's, got my master's. Um, so that experience combined with two other colleagues and friends, both sworn and non-sworn, um, really had me hone in on the organizational aspect, because our organization, whether some within the organization like to hear it or not, absolutely contribute to the demise of our mental health. Our jobs, our job roles, our job descriptions, absolutely, especially for first responders. And so, kind of fast forward through all of those different experiences, 2020 was kind of my rock bottom as a cop. Um, Lots of organizational issues, lots of moral injuries. I mean, my department got so toxic and bad that we literally had cops suing other cops suing supervisors, like civil lawsuits. So it created just a very toxic working environment. And that was also the year, as you guys know, of the death of George Floyd, the movement. And here in California, where it's very liberal and police are not well liked, that was really, really tough, especially because I kind of over-identified with my job a little bit. So all of the attacks that went along with the defund the police movement felt really personal. It was like an attack against me. And so, sort of all that to say, 2020, I really struggled, had suicidal ideations, which was really hard for me to say, especially when I was still born. It's a little easier to talk about now because there is still that stigma, especially within law enforcement, right? Which I know Jason talks a little bit about in the forward. I'm so grateful that you did that, because
My honor, really.
It normalizing mental health within law enforcement and how to stay healthy, not just from the physical side, but on the mental and emotional side, is so needed. We have to normalize that better, just as an industry as a whole. And so the reason why I wrote the book specifically was I didn't have a resource when I was having a hard time. I didn't really have a place or a person I could turn to, and I didn't feel comfortable reaching out. And so I created this book for someone who might be in those shoes today and might be struggling today, but don't really have a place or a person to reach out to. And so hopefully the research, the stories, not just mine, but other people's, helps that person that's struggling that isn't yet at the point where they can reach out.
Yeah, we have Jason and I were part of a group, a critical incident response team on the Tulsa Police Department, where if people were involved in any type of critical incident, it was usually like an officer involved shooting, a crazy pursuit that turned into a crash where somebody, died. We would get called out on those calls and go talk with the officers that were involved. And I always thought that was one of the better things that we had here on Tulsa. I know during my time, there was, I don't know, 5 or 6 officers who committed suicide. There was the one that stands out really the most to me was a guy that I knew, and dispatch called me in the middle of the night and was like, "Hey, need you to go here." There's, I think they told me something about officer involved shooting. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably going to get called anyway because I'm in homicide. And they're like, no, it's an officer's killed himself. And I think Jason went out on that one also. And it was just a terrible situation. And after that, they created another group. I think it's called peer to peer on the department that people can deal with each other. And yeah, it's just something that's been really, really positive on the department here. So hopefully we don't have any other situations like that here in Tulsa, but time will obviously tell. Do you guys have any groups like that? I know you said there was a lot of drama with your department, but did you guys have anything like that?
No, and that was part of the issue. Was my department was it's a relatively small agency in Santa Barbara County, We didn't have peer support. Still to this day, the department doesn't have peer support, really no internal, or there are some external resources, but nothing internal. And so I'm happy that the tide is sort of changing in that regard a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agencies that are starting to have more internal things put in place, but yeah, unfortunately, my department didn't and still doesn't have anything for its officers.
I can remember at I think it was the first in-service we had after that guy I was talking about committed suicide. There was a group that got up, and this one guy in particular was talking, and he basically said that he thought maybe people had failed that guy and just not helped him out. No one in particular, but maybe just as a group. And he just vowed that it would, if he saw anyone struggling, he was going to say something. And so, like I said, we've been super fortunate over the last, golly, that's probably been 7-8 years ago now, I think. But
yeah, and one of the things that I think that the public, just to give you an idea in reference to how it is for us, if it's kind of like, it's hard for a police officer to come forward and say this, because number one, this is their identity. I mean, literally, and just what you'd said earlier, Stephanie, when you're talking about that had became your identity. Well, for us, if somebody was to come forward like that, then they're going to be stripped of their gun. Not to mention the fact that you're going to have other police officers on that police department that's going to the word's going to get out. I mean, they may know why they're going to be on the desk for a reason without a gun. And so I can speak to Tulsa. I think I don't know that I have necessarily the exact number, but I think it's about 8 or 9 suicides that we've unfortunately had here since 1981. And I know that Ronnie and I both have known, gosh, at least 4 or 5, and at least, I mean, and we knew them relatively well. I mean, a couple of them were really good friends of mine. And so it's one of those things that's really difficult for that officer to come up and ask for help and stuff. And so when I look at your book, it is incredibly comprehensive. It almost reminded me, and it's not a difficult read, but it also kind of reminds me of something that I could see being like a textbook in college, honestly, in reference to, wouldn't you agree a little bit, Stephanie?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I hope so. I mean, I don't think the things in the book is entirely specific to law enforcement or first responders, right? Anyone can have work related decline in mental health. But I mean, let's be real. Like, my bad day as a cop involved a dead kid, CPR that was unsuccessful, whatever, right? Like, no shade here, but like an accountant, like what? They just didn't carry the one? Like, I don't know, like just different, right? Like, and so for us, I wanted the book to be a resource, especially for those industries that this stigma is so prevalent. Like you said, Jason, like I was, and this is very true until I went through it, I was so worried that if I put my hand in the air and said, hey, I need help, that's going to make me look weak. My partners aren't going to think that I'm fit for duty. I might get my badge and gun taken away. And so that really was part of the internal struggles, was this isolating feeling that I'm the only one going through this, but I can't talk about it. I have no one to turn to. I can't tell my partners. All my friends were my partners, right? Like, we don't have a lot of friends outside of our law enforcement job. And so it's a really isolating feeling. And so I hope that the book makes its way into different industries and occupations. But my sort of big motivation is to make sure that those within the first responder industries, especially law enforcement, have resources that they feel comfortable with.
And I think another thing that stood out to me when that one guy was talking at our in-service, and I actually said it in the middle of the class, was, and Jason, all of it, I'm sure you've seen it too, Stephanie, is if you have cops who are, I mean, just being real, that are lazy sometimes, and people in their own squad aren't calling them out. Like, everyone's taking care of their area because of whatever reason. You have people who write poor reports and supervisors don't call them on that. And so the thing I brought up that day was like, what makes you think you're going to talk to someone who's going through a life-threatening situation when you're not even willing to hold them accountable to take the calls in their beat or fill out the reports properly? And I don't remember getting a great answer other than, it's just, hey, well, I'm not going to let this happen again, which great, like I said, but I think that's another issue in law enforcement in general and first responders is people don't want to call people out when it really needs to, no matter what the issue is, so it's
Yeah,
just a tough situation.
I think that goes back to like the level of organizational support, really, for any industry, any occupation, any job, right? If we work in a super toxic place, or there is that stigma where we don't feel like we can reach out or call somebody and be like, "Hey, you've been different the last week. Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Right? We have to come to a place in the world just in general, but especially within the law enforcement industry where that is normalized. That's okay for us to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I want to apologize just real quick. So you've been hearing little voices maybe in the background. Well, he's being my little grandson over here. So go ahead, go play. Shh, quiet. That's what you were hearing. So I apologize for that. So if you hear that and people are like, we're going to complain, we're not going to. No, that's what it is. It's my little precious grandchild there. So you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you something. I think that cops are more eager. And thank you for saying hello to them. People are more eager to step up nowadays than they were back in the past. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not just talking about that. We're talking about just wrongdoing. People may see some police officer that may be a little aggressive with somebody, where they're a lot quicker, where it's, they've got programs in place now where they're talking to, they're teaching cops to de-escalate not only the public, but their own behaviors as well. So I think that we're making great strides in the right direction. I want to mention this one story really quick, because I wrote it for your forward, but unfortunately due to space constraints, but I love this, and unfortunately the listener cannot run to YouTube to watch this video of this. But back in the day, back in the 80s and the 90s, it was one of the original documentary series, and it was on HBO, and it was called America Undercover, and it was about PTSD in Memphis, Tennessee. And of course, Memphis, recently hit the news, etc., with some craziness, but nevertheless, it was about this one officer that had actually responded. It was about the whole department, really, and they were showing just the stuff that these cops deal with on a regular basis, and they would have support groups, etc. Well, this one police officer was telling the story, and it's just stuck with me for years. And it's basically this guy that goes to this suicidal juvenile call, and as he arrives to this call, this girl is like 13 years old at her birthday party, and he goes, "Well, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm just a little bit depressed." And so he goes, "Well, it's your birthday. You should be having a good day." And she's like, "Well, I guess I'm okay." And so honestly, he basically did what any cop would do, is say, "Well, if you're okay and if you're not wanting to commit suicide," and I really don't remember where the parents were in all this, but the police officer ends up leaving. He felt satisfied with her answers. And then about 3 or 4 minutes later, he gets a call that the girl now has a gun to her head. He goes to the call, and I hate to be graphic about this, but this is exactly what happened, and it's just the reality of life. And I think people need to realize that this is a taste of what first responders deal with. And so anyway, the cop runs down the hallway. There's that little girl sitting on the edge of the bed with the gun to her head, and he's like, "What are you doing? Put the gun down. What are you doing? Stop." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And then she ends up pulling the trigger. And this is back then in the 80s and the 90s. Back then, this is what happened with him, is essentially he did all of his reports. He contacted homicide, crime scene, his supervisors, other officers arrived, and then his supervisors told him, "Go ahead and do your report and then go 10-8, which in our world means go back in service and go ahead and answer that next call of whatever is coming down in the world. And can you imagine? I mean, I know when I'm looking at you, Stephanie, I'm looking at Ronnie. Can you imagine going from that scene and then going to do that? That does not happen anymore, fortunately. And it's because of people like you, Stephanie, that are bringing light to this situation, and many other people across the country with respect to peer-to-peer. Some departments don't have crisis or critical incidents response teams. They just don't have them. I mean, the smaller departments don't, and so forth. Some of this stuff, when you go through your book here, tell me some of the chapters that really are the ones that are the shining star chapters that people really need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Well, so my hope for the book was to not only provide information, education, right? Like we all go through a lot of training and get information and education, but like, how do I implement certain things into my life? And so the chapters, I use the acronym WARRIOR. And so each chapter uses a letter from that acronym. So I go through wellness, awareness, resilience, resources, identity, openness, and routine. And so I would say the whole book is really important because each chapter really hones in on how that can contribute to a decline in mental health, not just for law enforcement, really for anyone. But what to do about it, right? Because it's not enough for us to recognize that there's issues, but how do we fix it? What do we do to change it? And so definitely the first 9 chapters, and then the 10th chapter, the last one, I really get into my story, really the nitty gritty, my own personal experience, which was honestly really hard because I have people that I worked with, they're colleagues of mine that never knew that I was struggling. And so I've gotten a lot of comments from partners that still work with my husband because my husband's a cop, right? They're like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I feel so bad, and you said this, and now I know what to be on the lookout for, and all these things." And so I just hope that it helps. That's my husband right there. That was one of our last shifts that we worked together before I left, which was really funny because he and I worked for different agencies, neighboring agencies. But the way that our area of the county worked was we collaborated a lot, and so there were shifts where I was in the same patrol car with my husband. And then I'd go home and I'd see him and I'd be like, "No, this is a lot of time with you. I need a break." So it was quite fun. Like we would get into pursuits and fights together and then go home and be like, "Wasn't that so crazy?" So it was a very weird. Honestly, I just think that the research, not mine, the research from so many professionals is just so helpful for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm probably struggling with.
Have you noticed? I know you said, if I remember correctly, the agencies where you were at, still they haven't done a whole lot necessarily, maybe because they're small. But what have you seen that has improved for either since you left or because of your book or anything like that? Not necessarily just where you work, but even nationwide or in California, whatever.
Yeah, there has been a huge shift, which I love. I absolutely love that this is becoming a little bit more normalized. Mental health support. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and Jason and I have had prior conversations about this exact thing. My parents, they both were sworn. They retired a while ago, but my parents came from the generation of suck it up, buttercup, right? Like, dust off your boots, tie them up a little tighter, you're fine, just go on. But those are the people that I now help in the inpatient treatment facility here in California for first responders. My parents' generation are a big group that are now struggling through retirement because they didn't have the healthy coping skills in place. They resorted to maladaptive coping, like self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, like isolation, like bad money moves that feel good in the moment, like affairs, right? Like all these things that we do to distract ourselves because we don't have the healthy coping skills to really process our job stressors. Those are now the people that I'm helping. And so the big piece I think that's changing is no longer is it suck it up, buttercup. It's, hey, how can I help you? What can we do to help you? Not only for career preservation, which is important, but to get you to where when you retire, you can actually enjoy your retirement.
Yeah. Did Jason, I can't remember the name, that deal that Nathan's a part of, is it Mighty Oaks or something?
Yeah, Mighty Oaks, and actually they've got a location out there in California. I think it's near Santa Barbara, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Do you know anything about that group?
Yeah, there's quite a few, and I'm all for whatever resource floats your boat and helps you. That is what I'm a fan of. The particular one that I work for is First Responder Wellness, which is in Newport Beach, and so that one is open nationwide. We've had officers from Oklahoma, from Virginia all over the East Coast. And so that's one of many. And so whatever is going to help somebody not have the end result of my boyfriend, I'm a fan of.
And what was the name of that one again? I didn't hear that.
First Responder Wellness.
Okay. That's good. I love it. Yeah. I mean, who cares what it is? I mean, I haven't heard anything negative about any of them, really. So I think that for the small departments, one of the things that used to kind of drive me crazy, Ronnie, is he and I were on the critical incidents response team for many, many years. I'm still on there. I've been on there for over 17 years. And what that is that's basically a group of roughly 25 to 30 police officers that are there for fellow officers in the event that they come across some sort of a critical incident. It's a little different than peer-to-peer. The difference, peer-to-peer is kind of the new thing. That's the new organization, the brand new thing that everybody's excited about. And I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It's just different. Peer-to-peer is more like recognizing that somebody's not necessarily the same as they have been. Maybe they're having trouble at home. Maybe they could talk about it, etc. Critical incidents response team for us was if somebody was involved in a shooting or they happened to be in a pursuit and then the car that they were pursuing happened to plow into a car and kill innocent people. I mean, my gosh, that is, well, we just had a fire truck here in Tulsa that basically had a car turn out in front of him and it killed at least 4 or 5 people. I can't even imagine what that's like for those guys. That's the difference there. But I think that it's great that there's things that are available for police officers now. But what I was going to say, what drives me crazy, Ronnie, is when we would have a small department, like when we had that situation over in Broken Arrow, that they were like, well, we'll go over they need to really come up with their own. Well, some of these agencies just don't have the resources to do that, and I think that Big Brother, or like the big city, Tulsa or Oklahoma City here, or in your areas, the bigger city, I think that they almost obligated to kind of be there for that support. That's just my opinion. But
yeah, and I got from what I remember, the issue that some people had with us going over to the smaller departments was we don't know those people. And basically we're coming in and saying, oh, look at us, we're from Tulsa type stuff. And I think that all of us that were on there had the proper motive, and we would have went and just offered whatever support we needed and could have talked to the leaders or peers over there and kind of just given them a roadmap where they could then take it from there and get personal with those people. But I don't know that it really happened that much that we were even able to go somewhere. Maybe I never did. Everything I did was in Tulsa. I don't know that you ever went anywhere else.
I went to Broken Arrow and there may have been some other locality. Hey, let me ask you something, Stephanie. It's kind of personal question. I'm just curious. Mm-hmm. That had to have been, I mean, it's just personal, just between us and the rest of the world. But hey, well, that had to have been an incredibly tough decision for you to leave law enforcement. I mean, your parents, your husband now, etc. I mean, you're just kind of, it's like, it's part of your DNA, really. And what was it that really kind of made you to say, that's it, I'm done, and to be able to walk away from it? Because I think the day for me to walk away from this is going to be really hard for me.
So do you want my PC answer or do you want my honest answer?
Whatever you're comfortable. Yeah, I'm curious.
So when I teach, because I teach a lot, or I do speaking gig, I usually say I left my job because of a lot of factors, but I wanted to focus on my PhD work, all these things, right? To be quite frank, a big reason why I left was because I initially signed up to be a cop, to arrest bad guys, to get, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but like to get in the shit and like protect people. And after the whole defund the police movement, my department, and really our area in general, but my department especially, took the stance of you are not to do anything proactive. You're basically a firefighter, go sit in the station unless you get a call, and that is now your job. And then when we did go out, we were very much so handcuffed in what we could do. And I just felt like, well, I signed up for this job to help people, but me helping people, I really can't do, because I can't go be proactive and find the burglar before he burglarizes someone, right? Or go find that person that's looking to go rape a young woman, because I worked in a very college aged town. And so I guess just on like a moral level, I was like, why am I here? And I realized because there were a lot of my partners that were struggling that eventually confided in me because I was kind of the mama bear of the department because we didn't have anything official in relation to peer support. I realized that I could probably do a lot more good in the world by focusing on helping my partners, and they, therefore, are the ones that are helping the citizens. And so that was sort of
Yeah.
the route that I took.
And I think I think that's great, and I think we're fortunate here in Tulsa that it didn't completely get to that level. And I just some of the stuff I've read recently is it seems like there's been a turn in a lot of cities who went that route and are realizing that it didn't work out real well for them. But I think I mean this is flying by, and I think maybe we should get into your story of the book and what led to you writing it, and if you're good with that, and let's hear that part of it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess kind of like a general overview of the book, Workicide. It's not suicide, which is death by self, not homicide. Obviously, you guys are familiar with that, which is death by other, but workicide is death by career, which either can be a figurative sense or a literal sense, is the case of my boyfriend. And so what I saw, especially once I started to dive a little bit more into suicide, is that there are certainly contributing factors to workicide. And I saw patterns, right? Like us as cops, we look for patterns, especially with criminality and things. And I saw a lot of patterns. So what I saw, and what the research supports, is that there are three big contributing factors to suicide, especially work-related suicide for first responders. And the first is isolation, which can be real or perceived. The second is what a really big researcher calls perceived burdensomeness. I just call low self-esteem. But having a feeling of low self-esteem, like we're burdening ourselves, our families, others through things like finances or just not performing well, can look different for different folks. And then lastly, and the biggest, I think, for first responders especially, which can include, right, like nurses, doctors, fire personnel, not just for police and fire. The third one is called what the researcher Thomas Joyner calls acquired capability, meaning the experiences that we have received, have gone through within our lifetime, contributes to this sort of overall desensitization, which is important because in order to die by suicide, to actually go through the behaviors to have that end result, we have to overcome very strong self-preservation tendencies that we all as humans have, right? And so this acquired capability, he called it acquired capability because it's acquired. It's not something we're born with, it's experiencing. So it's this desensitization to human pain and suffering, which contributes to this decrease in self-preservation. And so for our first responders, I just call it occupational trauma, right? The calls that we run, whether you're police or fire, the death that we experience, whether you're a nurse or a doctor or whoever, maybe you have been involved in a family member suicide. That all contributes to this desensitization to pain and suffering to others, which absolutely contributes to not only a decline in our mental health, but suicidal ideations and behaviors. And so in this book, I really wanted to shine a light on those contributing factors for law enforcement, for fire, for someone who works in the doctor's office and is struggling. This really can help a lot of people in different occupations. But I wanted to really give actionable suggestions to be thinking about. There's over 100 different research studies, lots of stories from people, not just me. Um, and so that's kind of what the book is about. You talked about my own personal story. I do talk a little bit about that. Um, I think what I'm going to say is folks just have to read it because I don't think it'll do it justice if I just kind of like run through it because there's a lot of buildup and a lot of things that contributed to my suicidal ideations and everything that transpired. And so I think, especially for someone who might relate to bits and pieces of what we're talking about, I think this would be a really good resource for them to check out.
Is there
and
any deep? Go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, no, go ahead, Ronnie.
I was just wondering. Sorry, if is there any details you wanted to get into as far as your boyfriend and in that deal? I think
Sure.
if
Yeah,
you're good
like
with
why?
that, I think people would be interested in hearing that. And I don't know if that's a proper word, but just kind of realizing, as Jason said earlier, I mean, it's life and it's stuff that people need to realize is true. And this happens to anybody and everybody. And I mean, so if you could go into that, I think it may be beneficial to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still close with his family. I actually just met with his dad about 6 months ago. So I have permission to talk about his story, and my hope is the more I talk about it, the more ultimately it'll help people, especially that are struggling. And so, so Mickey was a cop, like I mentioned, and so he, like many of us, saw a lot of stuff within his career, and then some personal stuff too. And so he, like many of us, didn't do a really good job of processing things. Everything that I mentioned, right? Like self-medicating with alcohol, sleeping around, bad money moves, just impulsive behavior. He really was trying to, I think, on a subconscious level, distract himself through impulsive pleasure-seeking behaviors. And so all that's going on. He's working his graveyard shift. He gets wind, and the organization did not do a great job in this regard. Mickey got wind that he was about to be in an IA, which we know in law enforcement, all the stressors that entails. And so I think for him, knowing him as well as I did, the thought of him being depersonalized, because this job was it for him. Like he ate, slept, and breathed his work. The idea, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, of him possibly losing his job or his reputation, in addition to all of the traumas that he didn't really process really well, was just too much for him. And so he was working, and I think on what he thought was his last shift before being placed on admin leave for the IA. He made the very permanent decision to intentionally turn off his MDC, his in-car computer, right, which therefore turns off the GPS coordinates to your patrol car, to your whereabouts. And then he went to a meaningful spot in our city and died by suicide, just outside of his patrol car with his duty weapon. Now, the interesting, in kind of a morbid way, but like the cop and the dispatcher in me found it a little unique in that, because he's working, right, he eventually gets sent to a call. And so when dispatch can't raise him over the air, when his buddies and partners can't reach him over the phone, everybody's like, did he get ambushed? Is like, what just happened? And so this really started a long citywide search to figure out where he was, what happened, why nobody can reach him. And so it took some time because of that for them to find him. And then when they found him, it was very clear that he was already gone. And so lots of organizational stressors and traumas, lots of occupational stressors and traumas, which is why now that is exactly what I focus on. I focus on the organizational side, the occupational side, especially through that lens of that acquired capability, that desensitization. Because for our first responders, that's every call we go to, right? Death, destruction, trauma, blood, gore, like that's everything that we do within our jobs.
Yeah.
So without the healthy coping skills in place, without ways to feel connectedness to avoid that isolation, without ways to increase our self-efficacy, which mitigates burdensomeness and low self-esteem, that is what we have to focus on in order to not have end results like his.
Yeah, that's great.
I was going to just one other quick thing about that was, I assume you would have said so, but did he leave any note or anything that explained anything?
No note. But there were red flags.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, though, right? And so after everything happened, his family and our sort of core group of friends, some of us got together and kind of like backtracked, like, how the F did we just get here? And so kind of looking at it through different people's perspectives, it was clear there was a writing on the wall, but we just individually didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, it's heavy.
From my just history of working that, and Jason, you can probably echo this, that it may surprise people, maybe not, that not everybody writes notes, not everybody reaches out, and it's just, you just never know.
Yeah.
And so
I think that a lot of the instances, it's more of an impulse situation, and had they just kind of sat back and thought about it a little bit further, they would be able to work their way out of that a little bit. But you know, thank you for sharing that personal information, because I think that I think it's useful. I mean, you know, and I appreciate his parents allowing you to do that and so forth. I'm very, somebody's saying how sad they are, and it's sad for me to listen to. It makes me sick, you know, really it does. You know, we have in Tulsa, we have roughly 90 to 100 suicides every year, and they're just horrible. On another note, real quick, so you teach a bunch, and you're not opposed to teaching across the country. Amanda, if you would throw up that picture of her website, if you wanted to have, what organizations do you speak to across the country? You were just in Kentucky. You were in, look, I want you to say it. You say it.
I say it with such a California girl slang, Louisville.
yeah, me too. But it's like Louisville. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really just open to helping as many people in whatever way that I can. So
I love it.
Yeah, I spoke at IACP in Kentucky. I'm speaking here in California in about 2 weeks for the First Responder Conference. Might be going to Boston later this year. So I'm kind of bouncing all over the place.
No, I love it. And isn't that fun? I mean, just to be able to meet all of the different police officers, and I'll be speaking in San Antonio this next week, and I'll be going to Boise and Rochester and Virginia Beach, and I get around too. But I'm definitely going to throw your name out there, and maybe one of these days we'll be able to speak at the same conference. That would be awesome.
Oh, that would be
Now, on another really, I want to kind of go to a positive note too as well. Is you're somewhat of a super fan, and I want you know, you said you were going to talk about it, so you kind of knew Ronnie. I think I was your favorite, but Ronnie is your next favorite, right?
You're tied. You're tied. Yes, I there were many graveyard shifts that I would watch you on reruns to stay awake, and so I'm pretty sure I have seen every episode like 6 times. I can quote some of you because that, embarrassingly enough, is how many times I've watched it. One of my favorite Jason quotes, and I might butcher this because I'm going to paraphrase, but Jason, one time you said, you know, this is like a 1,000-piece puzzle and we're up to like 500. And I'm like, yes, I'm totally going to use that in some way, shape, or form. So, just silly stuff like that. But yes, big fan of you two, Justin Ritter. Yeah, you guys were absolutely the favorites for sure.
Well, we appreciate that. We really do.
That.
Go ahead and say something, Ronnie, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this wheel. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about ready to spin this random wheel is what's going to happen. And I think that legitimately, you know, I've got a cousin that's up in Washington. Darren, I'm going to mention your name. Dude, you picked 300. It was supposed to be chronological order, not, you just don't go to 300, man. I'm sorry. You're going to have to be better on the next drawing than when we have one of those. So just the way it goes, man. I'm sorry. Let's see here. I'm trying to. Oh, okay. Here we go. So let's spin this. Let's just try to do this for fun. This is for the light bulbs. All right. Sorry.
Go the other way. Back up a little bit.
All right. I'm backing up.
Yep.
Looking good.
The first winner. What does it say, Ronnie?
I can't see it.
It says number 12. Number 12 is the first winner. Take my word for it. It's number 12, I promise. All right, so the next one is going to be, and I'm going to have to go back and look and find out who the heck number 12 is. Here we go. It's spinning. This is for the Rescue 911 locator. No, that's not the Rescue 911. It's the locator light bulb. And it's going to be number 88. And I don't know that we have an 88. I'll have to double check on that. And if we don't, it's going to be the first person that jumps in there on it. I thought
we'll give those away. And I think, Jason, we talked about this last week. The company that has that, they're going to take care of all the shipping and everything. But Stephanie, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your stories. Hopefully people will get your website and get you to speak some other places and help some people. And then same thing with your book.
Thank you. I so appreciate your time, and it's great having a conversation with such big celebrities like the two of you. So it's been great.
Well, I'll tell you what, Stephanie, I appreciate you saying that. We're just regular cops, just like you were. But it is, you know what, I'll tell you what, hearing that from a fellow police officer, somebody that worked in the business, that actually means more to us than anything else, because, I think that's one of those things where we're like, what are the other cops thinking about us? And there was only one other cop from Laguna Beach that actually, from California of all places, he was like, man, I don't think it's right. And I'm like, dude, come on. We're not giving away trade secrets. It is what it is. People know we're going to be looking at things. You know what I mean? It's not a big secret. Anyway, is there any final thoughts that you have, Stephanie? Anything else that we haven't covered that you want to mention in like 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody that's listening, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but we absolutely have to put on our oxygen masks first in order to best help others. And so for the first responders, especially law enforcement, there's an article that Blue Lives Matter did on me. Law enforcement today has really good information there. You could probably just Google it, get some information there. But I just hope everybody stays safe and stays well, because there's a lot of resources.
Perfect. You can find her on her website. You can also find her on LinkedIn. If you're looking for a speaker, I have no doubt in my mind that you would knock their socks off. And it sounds like it's absolutely. Reach out to her, and maybe you can have her for your next conference. Man, I think this was great. I really do appreciate everything. I appreciate your candidness and telling us about this. And we're going to have to run here in a real quick minute. Or less than that. I'll tell you what, the next week's guest, episode number 16, for the third time, we're going to try to get Tad DiBiase, who is the no body homicide guy. This guy is the most renowned no body guy there is in the country, if not the world. And so tune in next week. Stephanie, thanks a lot. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Buy her book, please. Take us out, Amanda.